Boom. Hello. You have landed on the first video to ever be published on the Gen Z CEO channel. Thank you for being here. I promise it'll be worth your while. This is a good one. I'm interviewing Jack Bloomfield, an 18-year-old entrepreneur from Brisbane, Australia. While he was at school, he turned over millions across his dropshipping stores while he was at school. And since graduating, he started a company called Disputify, which he is now the CEO of, and it's surely to create waves in the e-commerce space. I had the opportunity to sit down with him for 50 minutes, really pick his brain, and I think the most important thing that you can get out of this is perspective, because that has been key to his success, in my opinion. So pull out a pen and paper or just watch and listen, maybe listen to it twice. But really it's important that you watch the whole thing. If you like the video, then hit like, because that support shows me that this is worth doing, and I will go seek out these really inspiring individuals and interview them for you. Also subscribe, because there's more content coming, and yeah, we're gonna have fun. Enjoy the video. Jack Bloomfield, king of e-commerce. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
You're the king of e-commerce in my eyes, because I see what you're doing and I see where it's going, and I think other people will begin to see that as your influence on the industry grows, because let's not forget, you're only 18. It's very early days. We've got 45 minutes. There's a lot I want to cover and extract from you for my viewers. But there's one thing I'm dying to know, and I've always wanted to ask you this ever since I saw the photo. How did you get on Malcolm Turnbulls' Instagram?
Oh, Malcolm Turnbulls' Instagram. I wasn't expecting that question, but
yeah, well,
look, Malcolm, I think it was a friend of a friend happened to know him, and then I was mentioning what I did, and he said, I think Malcolm Turnbull would be interested in hearing about this. And I was like, of all people? Oh, right, okay, excellent. And so and he gave me Malcolm's email address and said, just email him and tell him what you're doing and see if he wants to catch up. And obviously he's in Sydney, and sure enough, emailed him in legit 5 minutes, had a response and said, yeah, Jack, here's my EA's email, just organise a time for your next stand in Sydney, which so happened to be the next week. And even Mum came along, because that was one of the very first times I'd ever been to Sydney for like business meetings and all that. So even Mum came along to the meeting, and it was excellent. Just sat there for an hour. He's very into uni and all that sort of stuff, so I wanted to see if I was going or not, and I said no. So I kind of got a bit of a pushback on that.
He is an academic.
He is. I thought is he Rhodes Scholar?
He's a smart bloke.
He's very switched on. And then saw him again 6-7 months ago. So for Disputify. So
it's it was surreal, because it's the last thing you expect, scrolling through your Instagram feed, following ex-Prime Minister Malcolm, and then seeing a photo of him, standing next to you, basically congratulating you on your efforts, and
Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's a very cool dude.
It was weird, but I just wanted to start with that question, because it builds so much context around the position you're in, the position you've got yourself into, and how you've leveraged that, and you're now wheeling and dealing and networking with these high rollers in a good way, really positive, influential characters that people can only dream of, being friends with. Like it's crazy, but you really are. You're pulling it off, and I want to know what kind of impact that has on such a young person. I think maybe you were 17 at the time. When you
17. Yeah.
But moving on from there, you've obviously spent a lot of time with hugely successful people in the industry of politics, business, and all of life itself. Just people who have killed it in life. What does that do to someone who's so young, and your mind is just absorbing all this information, and just tell me what that's like, because many people get the opportunity to. Yeah, no,
I agree, and I think the one thing I've learned from it, which has probably been the most profound thing, has been that these individuals that I meet are no different to everyone else. And I think a lot of people put these people on a pedestal. Some people put me on a pedestal for what I've done, and other people, put Malcolm Turnbull on another even bigger pedestal for what he's done. And you'll find that these people are literally just like the everyday person, so just like you and me. I'd heard the saying before. I didn't really know if it was true or not, because you don't really know until you meet them. But they are just genuinely lovely people. And I have found that people who, which surprised me a lot, the higher the success level, everyone kind of thinks that the more someone's achieved in their own life, the more stuck up they are, the more they're more up themselves. And this is less so much politicians, more so much high net worth individuals and guys who have done a lot, and girls who have done a lot in their lives. they tend to be people who are more down to earth,
I was going to say
more nice, and have nothing to prove. Yeah.
And you're demonstrating that right now. You're a person of such big success for your age. You're extremely humble, and you wouldn't even pick it. So that, what you've said is the truth, I think, as well. And in my experience from meeting these high net worth people and people who've done a lot in business and influenced industries, they're just so modest and humble about what they've done, and they have a great perspective on life. And you're very lucky to have had that, influence and insight from those guys. So I hope you understand that you're in an awesome position, because a lot of people would kill to be there. But you've got yourself there. It's all you. You've done the work to put yourself there. And
yeah, no, I think a lot of people. I think it's all the process. Mine's so happy to just be slightly quicker than everyone else's, which I'm very thankful for and very grateful for. I worked incredibly hard. But in terms of for everyone else, if what I do today or what I've done seems of interest. I think a lot of people look at my age and look how old I am, and even if they're 25, beat themselves up because they think that they're not where I am, and I'm 5 years younger or 6, 7 years younger than they are, so therefore they're less of a person. But it's clearly not the case. And I think you've just got to put into perspective, well, everyone does, that some people take longer to do things as opposed to other people. Some people can get stuff done quicker, other people might not. Some people are better at business, other people aren't. And that's just not me specifically talking. It's just in anything. So it's just, I guess, run a marathon, don't sprint.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, do your
Stop
thing.
watching the other competitors, because that slows you down. If you focus on what you're doing, you're bound to be successful.
That's it.
And I think social media plays a big role in kind of giving people this false expectation that they should be somewhere where they're not now, and why is this person there and I'm not. So we can talk about that, but I don't really want to. I want to talk about you and what you've done in business, because now that people understand kind of the position you're in, they want to know how you got there. So let's talk about business, and let's go back to high school where you were studying. Obviously, as a student, you didn't drop out. You had the reason to, obviously. It would have made sense to. But you chose to stick it out in school, which is good, I think. But what's that like? You're running all these dropshipping stores. For those of you who don't know, dropshipping is just an e-commerce business model. But can you elaborate on what that was like, running these businesses while studying at school, and just kind of your life back then, so people can get an idea of what you were dealing with?
Yeah, no, well, look, it was interesting. I started, it was probably grade 10, 9, 10. I'd always been very interested in business. I started my first business at 12, but specifically started selling stuff online probably at grade 9 or grade 10.
Yeah.
No one really at school knew that I was doing it. Not because I was trying to keep it a secret, but just genuinely because I didn't go out and talk about it. I didn't feel the need to, because I just did it because I found it interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, took 6 months to even make a sale. I had $500 that I started with. That I got from mowing lawns next door. I lost every single cent of that in Facebook ads. So kept mowing grass, kept, next door neighbours paid me $50 for it, so I was having a great time. But I'd mow it as soon as it got that much so I could justify mowing it, and reinvested all the money into
that's good.
Facebook ads. So
I just want to, because that's such an important point. You're looking for that opportunity to make money again. So as soon as that grass gets to the point of, okay, it needs mowing again, that means you get the income. So I think that mindset of looking for the opportunity to make money is what people don't have.
Well, it was importantly, and this is a good point, because it's not the opportunity to make money well, for me personally, it was the opportunity to make money to get to where I wanted to go. Yeah. I never wanted to sit there mowing lawns for the rest of my life, and as much as getting paid $50 to do it, I thought I was winning the lottery. Yeah. It's a case of going, well, this is going to enable me to do X, which therefore is going to enable me to do Y, and then it's going to get me to where I want to go in life. And I think before you go anywhere, you've got to figure out where you actually want to go.
100%.
If you're driving your car and you're trying to get to a destination, you know what the destination is, and you can figure out the map to get there. If you don't, you're just driving around in circles. So that was me, and that was kind of where I started, all with the intention of getting somewhere.
Yeah, amazing. It really is. At such a young age, people only develop that later. For me, for example, I was quite busy swimming competitively during school. I always had an interest in business and entrepreneurship, but it's just, there's a lot of time involved, and I think it becomes a passion. If it is a passion, that's when it becomes a reality at that young age. And most people aren't going through that, but you went through it at such a young age. It was just phenomenal. And you know, the earlier you start, I tell people this if they ask me for advice. The earlier you start, the better, because you start to learn earlier, and then you can apply those lessons to your future.
Well, I think the best time to start is yesterday. The
Yeah.
second best time is to start now. So, I mean, for anyone who has regrets about not starting early enough, I mean, as I said before, I hate when 25 or even like 50-year-olds look back and go, "Oh, you're doing so much at your age, and I wish I was as switched on." Like, it's such a stupid phrase because you can start doing something at 50.
Start today. Seriously, just do something. It's a snowball effect. Read a book, open a page, read the first page. Next thing you know, you'll be 30 pages deep, and you'll have absorbed this new information that's ignited something within you. And that's how it starts. You just start small. You're not going to be running a business tomorrow. You start small, and then it's a process. You find out what you want to achieve, like we said before. And when you know your destination, then you lay out the route to get there. Awesome. I do want to talk about kind of how can you put into perspective the scale of your operation so people can get an idea of what you were doing. Because it wasn't just, selling things here and there, a couple of orders a day. It was very big stuff. You probably may not have seen, but Jack was featured on the news. That's how I came across him, featured on every news channel there was, newspaper, magazine, and that doesn't happen if you're, mediocre. You were doing it big time. And what is that like? I mean, how do you stay level-headed when you're having so much success also, and you see that your friends aren't obviously on the same playing field that you're on? Like, how do you handle that?
Well, I think the word success is a funny one because success is different to everyone. I know that and people who are living in less countries fortunate or less fortunate than we are, making $20 a day is a definition of success, and for some people living here, making $100,000 a year is a definition of success. For me, as much as to everyone else's opinion, I was done really well. Where I, through all of it, wanted to go was about 50 times higher than that. So as much as I, took the time to appreciate where I got to, and it was really great and, awesome, it was almost a case of, well, where I've got to is cool, but where I want to go to is even better. So just keeping it all into perspective.
So you always set the bar higher.
You always set the bar higher, but you know where to, there's a never-ending. Yeah, it's like, for example, you get a car and you want the next car because that car's better. It never stops. You always want more. And it's the same with everyone.
Yeah.
And you've just got to... That's awesome because that's drive and ambition. It's what it's called.
Yeah.
But you've just got to know when to stop, appreciate what you've achieved, take a bit of a breather, then keep going.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hope you do realise that what you have achieved is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Don't beat yourself up, that's for sure, because it's, it's unheard of what you've done. But on that topic of cars and things, I want to talk about that. I know you're into cars. I'm pretty sure all young guys are into cars, girls as well. We all love them because it represents our hard work and what we've achieved, and they're beautiful things. Not just talking about cars, but nice clothes and everything else that comes with making money. You now have access to. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people get caught up in that and they spend all of their money on that as soon as they get it. How did you refrain from not going crazy? Because at 18, people need to understand that this kid's 18. Well, you're an adult now. Congratulations. Welcome to the club.
Thanks. Yeah, I get checking into a hotel now by myself. So go me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Jack needed all this adult consent to do these things that he was doing. That's another story, but. The thing is, when people are that young and they're getting money, most people just spend it because they think, I'm so young, I'll continue making it, no worries.
So I guess 2 points on that. The first point is, if your ambition from the start was to always make money to simply go out and buy cars or watches or whatever, go do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do it. Spend all the money on that. If that was what you made it to do, then dude, go full ham. But just know that if you're in the business of making money to purely just buy materialistic things, there is only so far you'll ever go. Literally, as you know, you'll make any money, you'll spend it on something, and you'll reset back down to zero. So there's that. The second point is, it's all about putting things into perspective. Spending $200,000 on a car for a guy that's worth $2 billion is not a lot of money, but to a lot of people, it is a lot of money. For a guy who's just made $100,000 selling something online, going to blow $2,000 on a nice pair of shoes is, not that much money, but to a lot of people it is. But then spending $200,000 on a car is completely unrealistic because you only made $100,000.
Yeah.
So number one, you just got to figure out why you're in business, and if it's in business to impact people and achieve some sort of goal or to whatever it could possibly be, reward yourself. But as you say, reward yourself in moderation. Second of all, spend within your means. But third of all, just figure out why are you actually doing what you're doing. And once again, if I said you're in business for the purpose of buying cars, awesome. But if you're in the business of buying cars to impress other people, you're probably never going to go anywhere, because if it's not cars, it'll be something else after that. You'll end up just running yourself aground because it's just a full circle of making your money and spend it. So I think for a lot of people who do that, you'll find over a 20-year period they're probably not going to get to where they want to go because they just keep limiting themselves every time they make anything. But if literally if that's something that you've set to reward yourself with, go out and do it. So,
Awesome. Those are some really good points. Moderation, I think that really rung true with me. And I would say that that's the most important thing is moderation. Don't be crazy. Don't be an idiot. Do everything in moderation and you'll live a very balanced life. I want to talk about school because obviously you've got this car that none of your friends have. And what does that do to friendships and kind of opinions from teachers? Like, they know what you're doing because they see you on TV, you're rolling in a brand new Beamer, and like, it's obvious. What is your relationship like at school with your friends and your teachers and things like that?
Friends wise, it didn't really change. If anything, probably people knowing more about, I guess, what I could do probably even helped me in one way or another. People who I wouldn't usually speak to would be coming up, and so I was like, I never had any interest in speaking to them, honestly. And then would come up, it's like, oh, okay, great, cool. So it was the first week, I think everything started coming out. I was a bit like, okay, here we go. A lot of questions. Didn't know you did any. Oh my god. And then everything kind of died. It just kind of became normal.
Yeah, people get excited and then they realise, this is a lot of work after you deliver the advice, if that's what they're asking for.
Not so much, but as in like in school, the idea of anyone being in the newspapers, like even if it's for school, is like, well, what do you do? But me doing all this stuff and being in the news and everything for it is like, I've never seen that, holy shit. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But as soon as everyone, it's old news is news. It only lasts for, everyone's head only lasts for like 2 weeks, which is fantastic. Yeah. So everyone else just moves on. So really it was great. I didn't have a problem with it. Teachers, there was a bit of, you could feel there was a bit of bubbling on the, you hear comments every now and again from teachers. You'd hear so-and-so said this, and they'd get back to you. So, I mean, it was true. And then back in the education system, honestly, what could I expect? If anything, I probably should have got it a bit worse. So, I can't complain.
Yeah. I want to stay on that point of the education system because I know that you have certain feelings about it. I have feelings about it. We all have feelings about it because we all go through it. I want to know what your idea of a great education system looks like. Have you ever thought about it in depth? Is it something that you'd ever invest in later in life, in your philanthropy years or whatever it is? But what would you change if you could go back and you could kind of call the shots around school and stuff like that?
Oh, look, maybe I'd change it. I think right now, where as much as we all have our own, including me, personal gripes with it, we're very fortunate to have an education system which can in a lot of countries don't even have an education system to teach kids how to read properly, to talk properly. So I think the basics for something really good is there. Fortunately, it's built on a foundation that was it's 100 years old. Nothing's really changed. So that's kind of where things have fallen behind. If I was to go ahead and change it, if that was something that I wanted to do, not now, but down the line sometime, I think it's more the skills that they teach are there. I just think it's the ability for kids to go out and try different things. My biggest issue is I don't know how anyone who's in grade 12, for example, I saw it firsthand, can be empowered to go out and pick a university course, which is going to cost them, number one, money, but more importantly, 2 full years of their life, and is meant to dictate what they're meant to do after that 4 years for the rest of their life. Like, how do you know you're going to be an engineer if you've never you've never interned in an engineering firm before? You've never...
100%.
So I think if there's one thing that could be changed, it's that. And I don't mean changing it in grade 12. You can start there. But, giving kids the opportunity to try different things in grade 7. So they know, for example, when they're picking electives and subjects and stuff they're going to focus on, they have context behind what they're picking, not just because what their parents think is a good idea.
But it's because what they're good at. It's what they're naturally good at doing.
Well, also too, it's being good at something and being interested in something is two different things.
Yeah.
You might be really good at maths, for example.
Yeah.
But maths doesn't.
You might despise it.
Yeah, it doesn't really get you. You might despise it, and it's not really going to get you a job in anything. Being good at maths is great, but unless you can be a mathematician, well, then it's kind of useless. But if you're just going to do maths for the sake of doing maths because you know you're really good at it but don't really like it, but you could be doing engineering, which combines the both of them, but engineering doesn't rank as high in the OP system, which I went through, so you don't do it, and that was actually what was going to make you happy for the next 30 years. And you just gave that up in grade 7 when you're, 14, 15 years old. How can anyone make that sort of decision at that age?
Yeah.
If anything, it's dictated by parents, and some parents know best what's good for their kids, but unfortunately, the majority don't. So, as in, they don't know what the kid wants to do when they're 40 years old. No one knows. So,
they do have their best interests in heart, and they want to see their kids succeed.
Everyone, most parents do. It's just, do they practically know what is? Only the kid knows what's best. But yeah,
I think you have to give your kid potential to exercise their potential.
Give them the leeway to.
Yeah.
Give them the leash. Yeah,
Because,
put them on a leash. Don't let them run free. But
yeah,
give them leeway to do it. Pull them back every now and again.
Yeah.
But give them the opportunity to.
I think to be successful in life, you have to do what you're passionate about and what you're interested in. And if you force into a course that you're not really full-heartedly in, you may do well, but you may not be, happy because of that. And you'll be so much more successful if you do what you want to do. And the way to find that is by doing the things that you're interested in at a young age and exploring what your interests are and what your talents are, because everyone has them. Everyone has skills, abilities that other people don't have, and you work, within the strength of those things. But yeah, I'm glad we covered school. I do want to talk more about friends and family. In particular, your family and kind of like what role did that have on you becoming so successful? How did your parents because we've just talked about, parents' relationships with their kids and how they kind of, they don't wish to dictate their lives, but they do in a way. They influence them very strongly. My parents encouraged me to go to uni, do a course I wasn't fully invested in, but did it anyway. I'm glad I did it, but I want to know what was your parents' approach, because parents listening may want to know, how should I, raise my son?
Well, I think the point I made before about leeway and leash, I think, is something that mum and dad did to me. Like, it's, okay, you want to do that, Jack? Great, go out and do it. We're not going to get in your way. Which, starting a business at 12, for example, that's something you genuinely want to do. Go out, experiment. If you fall over and smack your face, we might come, put a bandage on it afterwards, but it's going to hurt. It's going to be a lot of pain, and you might have some scarring there.
Yeah.
So they did that, and I think they did that very, very, very well. I, at the time, didn't know how thankful I would be. Looking back now, I certainly am. There's a lot of parents that sit there, and the idea of their kid utilising their printer to go and print 1,000 leaflets, of which then dad tries to charge me for. The idea of just even letting the kid use the printer to print leaflets and then go advertise. Yeah. Well, it's not even it's too much. It's just like, I think it's a bit of an overprotective sort of thing, and mum and dad are very protective of me, as most parents are.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise the leeway and the trust they put in me to build websites, put shit on the internet, actually sell products, manage relationships with customers. And I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought I was like, I've got this all handled. Like, and I did a pretty good job at it. I was like, I'm great.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, it's like, who did a 16-year-old do that? They had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
They asked and they wanted to find out. They certainly could, but they didn't really care.
Yeah.
They care, but they didn't care. And I think it was that leash. Whereas if I went too far off course, they'd sit there and they'd yank me in hard. And I think just the ability, though, to actually be able to go a bit too far off course, figure out where I went wrong, make my own mistakes, recover from them, get myself out of the ditch, patch myself up and keep going, that was really cool. And I think for any parent who wants to give their kid the best chance of success, the fundamentals at school, super important, obviously. Everyone needs to know how to read and write and do maths and all that. But anything moving on from that, and you start looking at algebra and all that, it's like you don't need that in anything. But it is, and to the point, the schooling system, algebra and having to learn all that stuff, I do think in terms of discipline and all that, it does a good thing, because you're now literally forced to sit, study and do things you don't actually like to do. But it builds a level of resilience.
Yeah, you're right.
To credit, but you can kind of tell.
I just think that time is spent better doing something that you like.
It is.
Are good at.
It is.
Because that builds your.
But it's also important
ability
too
and
for
to.
parents who want their kids to become entrepreneurs, which is fantastic. Problem is, though, some kids don't want to become entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of parents who follow me, for example, who say I have DMs of people saying, "Oh, I'm trying to get my kid into entrepreneurship, doesn't want to do a business, or he doesn't want to do any of it." It's like, well,
come on,
maybe he just doesn't want to do it. Like if my parents wanted me to play basketball tomorrow, it's like, I don't want to. Like, why would I want to play basketball? Doesn't matter how much you push me, I'm still not going to like it.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a basic, I always had that for business, a basic underlying interest, wanting to go out there and do it. Thank gosh, though, I was just given the ability to have the leeway and the leash to go do it. And it's the same with any kid, whatever they do, whether it's gaming, whether it's basketball, whether it's business, whether it's whatever, writing, who cares? It's all about the leash and the leeway to try, fail, and keep going.
Exactly. I think parents, they tend to protect their kid from failure. They don't want their kid to get hurt.
Which, to be clear, is what they've done for centuries.
Yeah. Because you could. That's natural. That's intuition,
parenting instincts.
I know, but you have to fight that because that's how your kid develops faster.
Yeah,
is they fail and they learn, and you can be there, like you said. Your parents are there, if you fail, we'll help you because we love you and your parents, and that's
but then also too, to what degree would they help?
They're not gonna.
Shouldn't they? God have to find out, but
they're gonna let you stay
I'll still have a house. I'll still have
I'm still gonna make dinner. You're not gonna be on the streets.
Yes,
that's my point. Parents need to be okay with the idea of their kid going out and doing something that they could fail at because it's such good character building, and it's too late sometimes for people. They're so set in their ways of doing things that are risk averse. They're not going to fail, and that's where people who you referred to before, when they're 50, I wish I was more savvy when I was young. I wish I did that. I wish I used my time better. It's probably a case of your parents, discouraging you because they don't want to see you fail. But sometimes you have to go against what they say, and they'll respect that if you pull it off. They'll respect it if you fail and continue to pursue it. So it's never going to hurt your relationship with your parents.
To an extent, they'll always. If parents, they'll get over it. Like anyone does.
If you get into some really hot water, it could be
better
problematic.
But I don't know how true the statement is, but it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I don't know if that's true or not, but if that's the way, and if you're so set on doing
that's an
something,
interesting one.
I heard it the other day, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's interesting.
But I did. I think the idea of if you're so committed to doing something that you really just want to go out there and do it, just go out there and do it. And
it's your life. Do it.
Just don't become a terrorist or something like that.
Yeah, don't
do anything stupid. Don't sell drugs or
don't break the law. Don't rip people off. Do everything within legal reason and have a positive approach to everything you do. Cool. I want to talk to you about passion. Now that we've talked about how kids can develop that at an early age, and you obviously developed a passion for business at an early age. And you explore that by doing more business, and that's how you build passion and interest, is by doing the thing that you're passionate about. And if you don't have a passion, you got to go out there and try things, because you won't ever find a passion if you're not doing anything. So how important was that to, I guess, your success now, is being passionate about business and what you do?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, the idea of going out there and starting a business with just the purpose of making money. As soon as you make any money, you'll spend it, as we know. So you're going to get back to square one. But if you've got an actual passion you're there to do and drive and figure out and pursue, then you'll continue to do that. And if that passion is to inspire other people to do something, if that passion is to build wealth for generations, that is what you're out there to do for yourself, for other people, and whatever the passion may be. You'll continue to do that if that's genuinely what you love. Now, there's a difference between passion and just telling yourself you want to do something for the sake of telling yourself. Yeah. But if you genuinely do want to do it, you'll continue pushing to the end of time, and that is what's actually powerful and cool. So if you've got passion, you figure out what you want to do and go out there and do it, you'll always do well, because if you've got some sort of underlying driving force towards why you do what you do, the hard days don't seem that hard.
You're right.
The wins seem pretty cool, but the hard days are going to come, and it doesn't really bother you because you're working towards that end goal, what you love doing.
It's easy to keep rolling with the punches if you're passionate about it. The sooner you can discover that, the better, I think.
Well, and you've also got to identify too that you can love something so deeply, but there's always a point to where you give up and move on to something else. So it's just knowing that every day is not going to be perfect. And like I even looked today, we had a great day at Disputify, but the problem is though, I know that because we had a huge win today, things worked out perfectly. We got the first customer onboarded properly. Great. Did break.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
That's big.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
But the problem is though, I know it's the law. I don't know. There's some sort of law. I forgot the name of it now. But if there's a great day today, tomorrow's probably going to be a shitty day. Now I don't intend for it to be a shitty day, but I kind of prepare for it to be. So I know that if there's a shitty day tomorrow, it'll probably be good a day after. Or if something bad happens now, like the glass shatters for some reason, it's probably building up to something good that's going to happen. Like I can name 7 things that are bad that have happened this week. Probably they were building up to the moment that I just had. So if you just know that the bad times will get better if you persevere. That is the most important thing, because anything worth having never comes easy.
No.
So the harder you work, the more you dedicate yourself, and the more you put yourself through to an extent, makes the success at the end all that much better.
Yeah. No, life is a bit of a climb.
It was always a climb. No, even doing business, family stuff, relationship stuff.
It doesn't come easy. If you want to squeeze lemon and get as much out of it.
Walking from your WeWork to the car park, it's always going to be hard. It's like a hill you got to walk up. Nothing is ever easy, and that's what I said. Nothing ever good comes easy. So
yeah. Very good. Well, I want to know just more on passion. Specifically with you, what makes your heart sing? Like what makes you get out of bed in the morning? What is it? I know you've got a big company now. I know you want to change the e-commerce space and make it a safer space for sellers and buyers, and a more wholesome place to trade and carry out business. But what makes your heart sing? What makes you do it?
What makes as in like just generally?
Yeah.
Look, I guess maybe for me, the biggest thing is almost just, I know what I want to do is I want to build something that's really good and really worthwhile. And I've half done that now with what I've done today, but where I want to go is so much bigger. And that's building something that, number one, I can be proud of, but building something too which encompasses great people, something that I'm inspired to come to every single day. And I don't care whether that's, for Disputify, which I'm doing now. I don't care if that's something else, because I know I'm not going to do Disputify forever. I will end up selling it, we'll IPO it, we'll do something. If we get to that point. But if it's going to be that, or if it's going to be something else, I don't care, because as long as I love what I'm doing, and as long as I'm showing up every single day to do this thing with a smile on my face, and I'm surrounded by great people, we'll always do well. Everyone will always do well. And if I just continue to keep that, then and if I don't love what I do, and for some reason I'm not inspired by something I'm doing anymore, not because it gets hard, but just genuinely don't want to do it, move on and do something else.
Don't continue bashing your head against the wall if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Well, and also too, instead of and to not simplify the point so much, it's if you're bashing your head against the wall and you're not enjoying what you're doing and you feel like you want to walk away, figure out why you want to walk away. Because I can tell you now, if you're walking away from something for a reason, the very next thing you get yourself into and you want to walk away from that will probably be the exact same reason. So there's probably some root cause, some issue that you've got in you that you need to resolve, whether it's some sort of past charge or whatever it may be, that you need to resolve. And if you don't do that, it's going to continue through every single thing you do in your own life. Just like people who have to walk around with a chip on their shoulder because some past business partners ripped them off, somehow seem to attract new business partners, which will also rip them off. So
that's the whole subconscious law of attraction thing. I think it exists, and I think
of course it does.
It's hard to explain how it works, but
it's not even explaining how. It's like literally, if you think about something, you subconsciously draw yourself to it. And whether that means that you think about getting ripped off, getting scammed, getting whatever, and you feel like that's something that happens to you all the time, you subconsciously attract people into your life.
It's really weird.
And people see it. People see through, you might think you put on a front that no one would know that this is what you're thinking about. People see through it. People see it. People know that this is what the chip you got on your shoulder, and they'll go in there and they'll exploit it. Once again, you'll end up right where you started. So
I do want to talk about the opposite side of it, which is the positive aspect of thinking about things, manifesting. And I have a story which I want to share, which is particularly relevant because I stumbled across you on social media, and you absolutely influenced me to take charge of my own life. I was coming to the conclusion of my studies, and it looked like I was about to get a job in the corporate industry, and that was great because it would make my parents happy. I was probably going to make like a really good salary, and live happily ever after, but there was something missing and I needed more. I needed to go out and fulfill my desire, which was to start a business and get into personal business. And that's what I did, because I saw you, a 16-year-old, still at the school that I went to. I was like, this is me, except he's full of confidence. He's got the game, and he's going out there and doing it. So that's a bit besides the point. But the point is,
thank you for
that's how I came across you.
That's awesome.
And here we are now. It's really weird. So I came across you on social media, and now I'm sitting across from you, interviewing you, and I kind of thought that eventually our paths would cross, and they did by coincidence at a what would you call that? It was just a day where there were a bunch of like sports cars on show, and we
Friday day,
got a photo with you, and I thought, oh, that's awesome. I've met Jack. We had a brief conversation. I'll probably never see him again, but it was worth it. I finally got to meet him. And then my friend Imogen tells me that she's working in this WeWork Center shared work facility with this, whiz kid, 18-year-old startup guy. And I was like, is it Jack Bloomfield? And she's like, yeah. I was like, you're kidding.
Is that honestly how you described her?
No.
It was something like that. I knew who she was talking about as soon as she said it, because it was just on my subconscious. It's ready for those things. And, she invited me in. And, fast forward to now, I had the opportunity to interview, and that's what we're doing. So what you think about becomes reality, and that's a prime example of what can happen when you think about something so much. Don't get beat up if it doesn't happen tomorrow. Don't get discouraged if you're not a millionaire next week because you've been thinking about it before you go to sleep every night. It doesn't work like that. You have to do the process. You have to take the actions.
Yeah.
But yeah, think about positive things. Think about what you want, and you'll get there if you act towards it.
I agree. And look, my personal experience with that is Tony Robbins, for example, who I had the pleasure of speaking on stage
awesome.
With and meeting and all that, which is great. But as I say, my first ever interaction with anything business was Tony. And it was probably when I was 7 or 8 years old, and Dad used to listen to Tony Robbins quite a bit, and he had the Tony Robbins CD stack that he bought from an infomercial that Tony was doing on TV.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a lot of people starting. That's quite a
And he says, I give this thing had been here for a year, and I said, who's this guy? Because he was listening to it, and he said, that's Tony Robbins, and I said, what does he do?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, he's a self-help guru, or self-help whatever. And a self-help master, or however Dad described him, and I said, "Who the hell?" I think he said, "Like he helps you think about your brain or something better." And I was like, "Who the hell would ever want to listen to that sort of stuff? How stupid!"
Yeah.
And I was all brat about it.
Yeah.
Little did I know that my first ever major speaking engagement would be with Tony on stage.
That's crazy.
And the speaker before Tony, and then he'd go off stage, and for him to say, when I had the photo with him, to go, "You're the guy who was just on before me," and I was like, "Yeah." And he said that was one of the most incredible talks I've ever heard, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Did he say that?
Yeah, and then he sends me an audio message on Instagram the day after. So his big Tony voice, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So,
oh man, are you getting Christmas text messages from Tony as well? No. That's what I saw. He got one from Malcolm Turnbull, and I saw it on Christmas Day. It was a Merry Christmas message from Malcolm.
Oh, I did wish him
guy's
Merry Christmas.
on
So
Malcolm's
technically,
Christmas text list.
Yeah, no.
So are you and Tony in contact? Is there anything?
No, it was all through. It sent a couple back and forward, and then look. At the end of the day, you've got to figure out where you want to go in life and who's going to help you get there.
Yeah.
For me, Tony's the kind of person where, in terms of directly what I want to achieve in the next, even just 12 months, Tony doesn't really play up. As in, he can, but it doesn't really play a direct. As in, I figure out who do I need to know, who do I need to know to get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
Tony wouldn't really come on the list of that, specifically for what I'm doing and where I'm at, and especially around the US and all that.
Yeah.
So, that's for me. And no real use at the moment, but in terms of when I'm over in the US doing different things and getting back into speaking and all that, if that's something I choose to do, then
I'll set it up. You can get a lot of value out of that guy. He can change your life.
Well, and I know a bunch of guys who are in Tony's platinum mastermind class thing or whatever it's called, and they absolutely love him and great relationship with him.
He's a force of nature.
He is. I don't know how he does what he does, but he's pretty good.
It's crazy. But if you're feeling a bit stuck in life or directionless, go and listen to Tony, because he helps you find out what you want to get out of life and what you can get out of life. I definitely recommend listening to Tony. And he talks a lot about discipline and execution and creating a plan and carrying it out. I want to talk to you about that. How do you stay disciplined and committed, and how do you execute on what you do? What's your approach? Because at the end of the day, if you want to do anything, you need discipline to your plan. You need to execute on what you plan out. From the beginning to now, like, what has been your approach?
I think the plan always changes. You can it's great to, once, as I mentioned before, set where you want to go and just figure out how you're going to get there. That's always going to change. So I think planning is great. It's going to change. My plans change. Where I want to get changes all the time. But you just got to be super. I think if you can be super clear, and the clearest way you can possibly ever do it is get a napkin, get a pen, get a piece of paper, get a pen. Use a whiteboard, whatever. Literally map out the next. I find it hard to do 5 years because I literally don't know. But 12 months, feasibly, we want to be in 12 months' time. I tried to do 30 years the other day. That was immensely difficult.
That's crazy because there's variables to consider.
Well, you don't know,
outside of business, your life. Like, am I going to get a girlfriend? Am I going to get married? Or am I going to move overseas at some point because of some business need? Like, you can't plan for 30 years.
There's that, but even looking at like net worth and all that sort of stuff, like, do you set 10 billion or do you set 100 million? Do you set, like, you don't, and you're always going to, like, you're never going to get it right. So I think you've got to set it, go to work towards. Hell, if you overshoot it, what do they say? Aim for the moon and you land in the star. Or you aim for the stars and I don't know, whatever. Great. But yeah, it's just, and like even with Disputify, for example, like me trying to plan the next 12 months out, when you talk about merchant numbers and transaction figures and all that sort of stuff, it's been very hard to do. We're getting better at it now, like a bit more clarity, a bit more understanding in terms of what we can feasibly achieve by this time next year. But it's still hard, and it's still going to change, and we still don't know. So trying to do like even 5 years personally is pretty difficult. So
Geez, you said something there, and I'm not sure if the listeners caught it, but you said, "Am I going to get to 10 billion, 100 billion?" And
I said 100 million, but we can do 100 billion.
We can put a bit on it because I feel like you wouldn't shy away from that number, and that's crazy because it's obscene to think about one person, achieving such a result. But that's where you set the ceiling, and like that's what you believe you're capable of. And I think people set the ceiling too low for themselves.
Oh, of course, people always. And when you're a child, for example, you think that you can like conquer the world, as in like, I can climb towers, I can do this, I can do that. It changed because it's the outside opinions and beliefs of other people. And one of the most interesting things I've ever heard Elon Musk, apparently this is the way that he thinks, is he almost just thinks of where he wants to go, for example, going to Mars, and everything else between now and then is just static energy. People are just energy. People come and go, things come and go, things change, but it's almost like a direct line to where, and any bumps or movements or anything like that are irrelevant. The ups and downs, it does not matter. It's just a flat line to where he wants to get in life. Now, I'm not sure whether that is true, but that was the way that I interpreted it from what I heard. And just thinking of it that way, like, how do you get between here and $10 billion? Don't think about what other people are going to think about you. Don't think about your limitations or how smart you think you are, or what degree you think you've got, or how much money you've got. Just think about how would you do it if you could do it. And if you tell yourself you can do it, you can do it. Yeah, if you can genuinely believe in yourself that much to go, this is what I want to achieve, knowing that everyone's going to tell you that probably you can't.
Yeah, you have to be prepared to take that, because a lot of people will often try and draw you down.
The problem is people just got to. I figured it out is that everyone's always got their best interest at heart, and this is something I tell Imogen quite often: is everyone's in it for themselves, and that's great. But the problem is when you don't know that, and you think people are in it for you, and you're going out and trying to achieve something, and you think when people tell you that you can't do it, that advice is in your best interest. Yes, there's one thing being called delusional, and there's another thing actually being called a realist. And as long as you're a realist and you set where you want to go, and you've got other people telling you otherwise, they're not doing it to serve you. They're doing it to serve themselves, to make themselves feel better about what they haven't done, they haven't got.
That is seriously profound. Rewind that and listen to that again. Take it, cut it down to 1 minute if that's what it was, and just listen to it every morning. If you have people in your life telling you that you can't do something, because it's for them. Yeah, that was insane. That was really profound, Jack. We've got a couple minutes left. I want to talk to you about resources. Everyone wants to know the hacks. How do I get to this point? It's what my usual advice is: pick up a book and read it, because that's hard work. And if you can complete a book, you'll get a lot of information out of it. and it shows that you've done something
Well, it's
successful.
ironic because I don't actually read books all that often.
Yeah, it's
funnily
not for
enough.
everyone, but it's something that I adopted.
No, it's not. Yeah, and there's only so much. I find the best information I get is learning it from people, and now I'm in a fortunate position where
definitely
the people that I get to surround myself with, majority of the time, are ones that I want to learn from, and ones that can kind of get me higher in life. So therefore, it's great to learn off them.
Yeah.
And you kind of filter the information you get, see if it's it's applicable to what you're doing, and then you can kind of suck that in and go. Online courses, I think, are the same thing as well. There's only so much you can get from one person's knowledge in an online course. And I can tell you now that the information in books, for example, from Donald Trump, The Art of the Deal or something like that, Donald Trump doesn't write his own books. He just gets it, he gives a bit of 2 hours on what he wants to put in the book, and then gets written up, reads it, okay, great, puts it out.
Yeah.
So a lot of the information there is filtered. I think the biggest thing you can get is figure out, if you want like a hack, figure out who you want to be.
Yeah.
Go talk to them. And I think if that's something that you want to own your own business, if you want to become, you want to be worth $10 million, you want to be worth $100 million, if you can go talk to them and figure out how they got to where they are in their lives, that's great. So that's like level great.
Yeah.
How you can go from like great to like you're probably going to get there too is if you can figure out a way to work for them. Like if you can go up to someone that you like, say for example, you could work for Elon Musk. The idea of spending 5 days, or in Elon's case, 7 days a week with Elon for God knows how many hours he works, 16, 17 hours a day, let's say, and being able to spend that time with him, you don't even need to ask him any questions. You are surrounded by essentially greatness, which therefore means that rubs off and you get to see how a guy like that operates. And now Elon's that end of the spectrum. Even if you just look at someone who's running a real estate business, for example, and you want to become a real estate agent, work for free.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes to get in the door and just get there and just be there and be around people like
Become
that.
a sponge, absorb everything that they are.
But also
willing
to
give you.
figure out how you can provide value to that person.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you now, they don't want people who just get there and waste their time. And and they know that as soon as it becomes a one-sided transaction, they know you're just sitting there to hang out and listen and learn from them. Even I have my own limits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you can actually be there providing some sort of value, whether that's in an intern role, whether that's in God knows what, and their assistant, be their assistant, do whatever. Figure out what that is actually valuable to that person. Get your foot in the door. Go work for them one way or another.
Yeah.
Good is talking to them. Great, and how to become like them is actually figuring out how to work for them in one way or another.
Yeah. Awesome. That was really good. I want to just close with Disputify, a bit about your company, what you're doing, where you're taking it, long-term vision. You said maybe IPO, maybe you'll sell it, but I'm more interested in what you guys are doing now and the next 5-10 years. What is this company going to do for the e-commerce industry?
Yeah, so essentially, the reason I started Disputify late last year was out of my own personal problem with chargebacks and disputes. So we're getting a couple of $1,000s a month in people who, we track every package we'd send out, and we'd get people who'd call up and say, this never arrived. And for the first part, I believed it, just like, oh, maybe there's a problem with the shipping company or...
Yeah. It's natural to think the customer's right. That's just...
Yeah, of course it is. Customer's always right. Yeah. And turn around and would realise that this stuff did arrive. Most people were signing for it as well. Yeah. And it was literally just a customer wanting it for free. And I was like, and we'd try and prove this to the bank.
It's a pretty poor reflection on society, but...
It is, but
it's only the minority. I mean, that's...
anyone who... It's a reflection on all of us, but we've all been... I know, for example, if I could fill my car up tomorrow, I have to pay for fuel, but just be able to drive away with no repercussion whatsoever. There's no one in the booth at the place. No police guy is going to care, but I know I've got an obligation to BP to pay for the fuel. Even I would think about doing it. And I'm sure anyone else who denies the fact they would is probably lying. We're always looking. That's why we do deals on different. That's why people use coupon codes. We're always looking to get something for ourselves. Yeah. And as soon as people realise they can just get products for free online, even when I tell anyone that that's something you can do, it's like a profound shock on their face. I had no idea. Yeah, and it's worse. It's like a shock, thing. And then it's like a delight. You can almost see it in their eyes. It's like maybe I should try that. It's like, oh no. But so essentially we're out to stop that, and we're tracking and tagging these individuals who make a habit of doing this, which is most people. You can get a product for free once, go back for a second and third and the fourth swing.
But we know who you are now.
We know who you are now. So then more importantly too, when you've hit this guy 3 times over on this website, this other guy's also got Disputify installed. As soon as you then go try and buy a product from them, they know, your record in vague detail. They know what you like as a customer. They don't know where you've disputed or how you disputed or what you disputed. But they just know that your score as a customer is quite poor. And they're on the front foot now. For the first time ever as a merchant, can actually understand the customer they're dealing with. And this isn't a customer who's, stolen someone else's credit card, has gone overseas and is using it from there. That's what Stripe Radar is. Every single other fraud tool is there to prevent. What we prevent is the customer using their own information, their own money, just has evil intent, and the fraud itself is not committed till 2 weeks after when they receive the package. So, we raised quite a bit of money for that early this year. I've been building it all of this year, and literally brought the first, as I mentioned before, integrated the first customer on today, and nothing broke, which is fantastic, went smoothly. And it was really, really, really great. So we'll finish this beta until February next year. Which will just bring more and more merchants on, and then from there really hit the gates out with sales and that sort of stuff. Which
it's going to help a lot of people. It's going to help a lot of people sleep at night, and I think anything that does that is a really great product and service. So.
Well, and also too, it's great for the merchant, which is excellent. But the idea of unfortunately, us as good consumers, guys, good actors, ones who don't do this sort of thing, have to actually, at the end of the day, pay the price for these other people.
Someone's going to pay for it.
Someone's going to pay for it, and it comes back to the people who are doing the right thing. So if we can, actually provide some sort of monetary value to good customers, the costs get, or the loss, which was a loss, which is now no longer existent, can get passed on, of which it will. I think that's really cool. And if we can do that over the next 5-10 years, have an impact, that's great, where the average person, instead of having to pay $15 for something, now only has to pay $13. That's really cool. So not only are we saving the merchant money, which is the immediate thing of you're losing 120 million to disputes, we can try and cut that in half, if not more, or less. We now can also save the customer money, because that saving then can get passed on to the customer in one way or another. So if we can do that, and we'll see that change over time, I think it's pretty cool. So,
I love it. Congratulations, and I look forward to seeing where it goes and where you go after that, because I think you've got a lot of things to do. And
tick this box, do really well at this, and God knows whether. And that's the thing, trying to figure out, will we be doing Disputify for 10 years? Do we get to a Series F, capital raise, or do we sell out of the Series D and everyone's super happy? I don't know. So when I talk about before, trying to plan for the next even 10 years or 30 years, just trying to figure out, in 5 years' time, am I going to be selling Disputify or IPOing it and then moving on to do something else? Or I don't know. I love what I'm doing now. I don't know if that'll change in 4 years' time. My priorities realign. Everyone can say they're always going to do what they do now. Doesn't usually work out that way for majorities.
But if you're doing what you love, then
that's it.
Doing
what you love, then work is not work. So
that's what life's about. Thank you very much for joining me, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great.
It's been a pleasure.
This is the first episode of Gen Z.
Yeah, you did perfect for your first episode.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
The lighting's a bit bright, so we might adjust that. But overall, I got a lot of value out of this. I think my listeners will have got a lot of value out of this. And hopefully we'll keep in touch.
No, I'd love to. Excellent. Well, thank you.